Hey guys, what's up? This is Blackcubing and welcome to my first video in the series on CFOP for beginners. So this series will help you to transition from the beginner's method to the CFOP method. So the first video is going to be on cross. Coming from the beginner's method, I hope that you already know how to do cross, and there will be a few changes that you will have to make while transitioning from the beginner's method to CFOP. So let's start and let's look at these changes. And so firstly, a short overview of what cross is. So what you do in cross is you take these pieces, the white edges, and you insert them in their correct places. So in the advanced cross, you want to do this in the least number of moves possible, like this. So let's start off with the beginner tips. The first main beginner tip is to do cross on bottom. I think coming from the beginner's method, you know how to do cross on top, but in CFOP, doing cross on bottom is much better because it helps you to transition into F2L easily. This is more for the advanced solver, but still you should prepare for the advanced steps from the beginning. So cross on top means doing the cross with this white the white layer at the top, whereas cross on bottom is doing cross with the white layer at the bottom. Now the important thing while doing cross on bottom is you do not get to see your cross pieces, so you have to predict where the pieces will go. So for example, if I want to solve this piece, the red piece here, I could solve it by doing a D move. But while I'm doing that D move, I actually cannot see the red piece. So I have to know confidently that by doing this D move, this piece will be solved. And you cannot look at a piece every time after you have finished solving it. So there are a number of things that you can do to make your transition easier. The first thing is that however you do the cross, by doing a flower pot or by inserting pieces individually, or however you were doing the cross in the beginner's method, do the same thing, use the same logic to do the cross, just doing cross on bottom. So you will get a hang of how cross on bottom really works. Another thing you can try is taking a piece such as this one and then trying to solve it blindfolded. So this will help you to predict where pieces. Suppose I take this piece, I can move it over its slot and insert it at the bottom. And you can move pieces over their slot. It does not matter if you are inefficient. The main thing is learn to do cross on bottom. Now once you have mastered doing cross on bottom, once you can confidently take a scrambled cube and do the cross at the bottom without looking at the cross pieces, what you should do is you should move away from doing a flower pot. So what is a flower pot? A flower pot is something like this. A lot of beginners methods use a flower pot to solve the cross, where you take your 4 white edges and you put them at the top like this, or at the bottom if you're going to do cross on top, and then you insert them one by one by bringing each edge over its respective center and inserting them. This is quite inefficient, and what you want to practice now before you move on to the intermediate steps is inserting pieces from where their position is directly. In this case, for instance, so this green you could insert by taking it up, moving over its slot and inserting it. This blue can be moved over its slot and inserted. Same thing with the red, and you have got your orange, which you can insert like this. Since you cannot insert it directly, you bring it down, you insert it and readjust the layer. So you want to try this. Even though this inserting like this is quite inefficient, you should still do this to move away from the flower pot. So once you have mastered doing cross on bottom, and once you can now do cross without doing a flower pot, you should move on to the intermediate steps, which are going to focus on making your cross more efficient. So the first intermediate step, and the most important one, is to solve pieces relative to each other. What do I mean by that? Well, consider this example. Here you can see that red and blue have both been put in the bottom layer in their correct orientations. However, they are not in their correct places because red needs to go here and blue needs to go here. However, red, you can see that the red piece, no matter what, will always be to the right of the blue piece, and it is so over here. And because of that, these two pieces can be simultaneously solved by one motion of the D layer. Since they are relative to each other, they both need the same move to be solved, since it's just being solved versus being solved and offset, like this. So you should always look for cases where you can solve pieces relative to each other. For example, here you've got green, which is opposite to blue, and you've got orange, which is opposite to red. So you can insert green, and now green requires a D2 to be moved in its correct place. But what you can do is you can also insert the orange, and they are both opposite now, and they both can be solved simultaneously using a D2, like this. Consider this example here. Here you can see that green and blue are both opposite to their correct centers. They can be inserted, and what's more, after you have inserted those, you realize that orange is also now opposite, so you can insert orange again and adjust the D layer. This also works for pieces when they are adjacent to each other, as I showed you earlier. So suppose you have something like this. This is another example where you have orange and blue over here. Now you know that blue is always to the right of orange, and this orange can be brought into its correct spot by using a D move. However, you also know that when blue is to the right of orange, blue can also be brought into its right position with a D move. So you can bring blue down and solve both of them simultaneously, like this. So this is solving pieces relative to each other. Now I did not see this initially, but you could have also seen this. You can solve even more than two. You insert blue here, as I told you earlier, but now green is always to the left of orange, as you can see, and green also needs a D move to be brought into its correct spot. So I can put green in and do a D move, and now I have three pieces that I have inserted in one D move. So you should always work on solving multiple pieces relative to each other. It does not matter if you put a piece into the wrong place, as long as the piece is oriented correctly, that is, white is facing down, you can fix that piece using a D move. Sometimes you even have cases where something like this happens. So suppose you have got this case where you have these three pieces that are solved, and then you have this piece that is not solved. So what you can do, since this piece needs a D move to be solved, you put it down and you do a D move, but ordinarily doing that would mess up everything else. You do a D prime to these pieces such that this can be inserted relative to these, since blue is to the right of orange. So with one move you can do a D move and insert everything. This is opposed to taking this out and inserting it, and that takes a lot more moves. So what you do is you misalign these to get this relative, put it down, and you align. You also have cases like this. So here, consider this case. Now you have these two pieces which are relative to each other that can be solved using a simple D move. Now you have this piece that is opposite to its correct spot, and it is always to the right of blue. Red is to the right of blue. So you bring blue to the left of red, insert red, and now you have got these three pieces opposite which can be solved using a D2. But what's even better is that now you have got this green which is always to the right of red, as you can see, and needs a D prime to be inserted correctly. So you can do a D prime here, bring red to the left of green, insert green, adjust, and now you have got everything right again. So this is solving pieces relative to each other. You always want to look for such cases where you can solve pieces relative to each other. And another important thing is watch example solves. By watching example solves, you'll get to understand more examples of how you can solve pieces relative to each other. Alright, so now let's get into the advanced tips. The only advanced tip that actually consists of practically solving the cross is when you have got stuff like this, for instance. Now here you can see that blue is inserted and you have got these two pieces in not such a good position. So what you could actually do is that firstly recall how you directly insert, and what you should be able to see is that this piece needs to be inserted using a R prime and then a B prime move. but this piece needs to be inserted using an F prime and an R prime. So since this R prime is common, you can insert this piece and then insert this piece with one move. So here you're inserting multiple pieces at once. You could even do this more efficiently. Okay, here we go. Now you can see that this is opposite. So if you bring this here opposite, you bring this here opposite and bring this down and insert this too, then you can solve all four of them relative to each other. Then another thing you should note is you should plan everything in inspection. Now this is quite advanced. You get 15 seconds of inspection, and in inspection you need to see where all of your pieces are and what sequence of moves you should do to insert all of them, and it really helps when you've got a small number of moves. So here, for example, I see that this piece is in relation to this piece, which is in relation to this piece. So inserting all three of these will put them in relation. And then I've got my fourth piece already down here, and this piece is not in relation to any of these. So what I should predict is to bring this in relation, insert all of these, and solve everything at once. And again, here example solves will help you. And to help you over here, you should take unlimited inspection. Inspect for as much time as you can until you have got an idea of what you should do, and then try to solve the cube blindfolded after that. So these are all the tips I have for you. So thanks for watching. Please like, comment and subscribe.